Hi, my name's ShieldWall100 and I'm just running up another quick critique. I've had my new releases through from Night Models for April, and yes, this is the first one to cover this month's releases, and yes, it's going to be focusing in on the models, as you can see there, all the physical miniatures. So we've got Crazy Quilt, the Year 1 Batman, the Year 1 versions of Detective Flass and Detective Gordon, and of course the two sets of Night Models counters, each for the Joker and Batman crews. Okay, let's start with our first model and our first look at them. Well, we'll start off with the main man himself, the Year 1 Batman. This is a model which is greatly liked by the community, who seems to have read up on him, etc. And his miniature stat line and miniature itself seem to sort of hold that up as well. I've got some thoughts on him myself, which I'll come to in a moment, rules-wise. But let's just have a look at the model and the build quality, because that's what I like to look at in these critiques, because there's a lot of rules analysis online, but I don't think many people actually look at how easy the models to put together, which is a big issue for a lot of people, especially people who buy them for display like myself. So okay, but yes, I was actually concerned when I saw the pictures initially that this guy was a bit flat, because you only got this angle on him. Sorry, see if I can get the focus right. And yeah, I mean, you only get that angle. You're going to think, oh, is he got any like three-dimensionality at all? But can reveal just from a quick rotate round that yes, he does, a lot more than I thought, and even some really good back detail, the way he's holding his cape and the fins on his arm, you know, the blade fin things. No filling at all required on the model itself. Really good, easy fits, tiny little bit of cleanup here and there. They've got so much better at that. I did put some extra green stuff on the base, as you can see, just to, like, you know, cover over the old cobblestone, since it's supposed to be standing in that ruined building from the comics and the animation. So yeah, but you know, that's optional. You wouldn't have to do that. I just chose to, because I had some green stuff left over and decided to get on with it. So yeah, really nice model, much better than I actually thought it was going to be from the first look, and yeah, hope you agree. I mean, obviously if you don't like the look of a scowling Batman, you're not going to like him, but you know, that's your choice, isn't it? It's all subjective, but let's have a look at the stats, and here's where I can broach the first subject. This is the first release with no stat cards included in the boxes, which I don't like. I personally don't like it. So I've had to print my own out from their website, and I'm still working on getting the sizing right. I'm just going to stand up so I can look at it a bit better. Does enable you to look at both sides at the same time, and them being a bit bigger is better than being a bit too small, but hey. Yeah, not a big fan of them not doing the stat cards in the box, especially since they haven't actually managed to get their app off the ground yet. So yeah, printing them off off their website is currently the only solution to actually getting these models on the board at the moment. Not a massive fan of that myself, but they'll get round it, and you know, it'll give it a couple of months time, or you know, however long it takes them to get the app off the ground, and everyone will be able to play, and it'll be a problem for yesterday really, and no one will really care. So I mean, including myself. So okay, right, anyway, Batman Year 1. This guy, again, he's got the leader rank, obviously only Batman affiliation, 121 rep. That does put him at the cheaper end of Batman's, but it's really not a significant enough difference that I won't be comparing him to all the other Batmen, really. Okay, his stat line is okay. I mean, he gets a bit of he's got 12-inch movement, which is really quite high even for a Batman. But it's made up for the fact that his attack is only 4 instead of the normal 5. Which, you know, could let him down in some crucial matchups against enemies. His willpower is 7 and his endurance is 9, so you know, kind of round about there. Again, the willpower's a bit low, but this is Year 1 Batman. Like I said, he's got a lot of buzz around him, and some people think he's the best Batman yet, and so, you know, that's an interesting take. He's got the Batlings, but only 1 round. Do you ever use more than 1? Up to you. The blowgun's interesting. Doesn't do damage, but it does cause paralyze, and it's bloody hard to avoid with silencer there. It is only short range though. Paralyze is great because it basically takes an enemy model out the game for a turn. So if he hits with it, whoa, you can just cripple Bane basically for a whole turn. Also makes them -2 to their defense, so they're a massive sitting duck as well. Trouble with that is he has to be at short range and, you know, able to see the enemy, and if you move you can't use it because it's only got rate of fire 1, so Yeah, I mean, it's good, it's really useful, but, you know, he has to expose himself to use it, so it's, you know, it's got potential, but I wouldn't pin my hopes on doing it every turn. This Batman is definitely not as tough as the others. He has the Bat Beacon and all the other things here, which I'll go into in just a moment, but I just need to charge my camera, so give me a second. Okay, I do beg your pardon about that. A bit of a snafu there with the battery on this camcorder. So yeah, well done me. Let's have a look at his traits though. So this is where a lot of people are getting excited. You know, he's got Bat Beacon, which is a new one. Bat Cape we've seen before. Detective, yeah, awesome, very characterful. Hidden, so he's got some deployment shenanigans. He can just be deployed anywhere on the board that's out of sight. And Master of Stealth will help him with that because that's a 6-inch night radius as opposed to the normal 12. So yeah, and Master of Stealth picks up with matches up with Sneak Attack as well. So yeah, much like the other some of the other Batmans, like the one that comes with the starter set, he'll be getting +1 to hit when he does a sneak attack, and Master of Stealth really focuses in, you know, really helps with that too. So yeah, he will be beating people up, definitely. Just you know, in some key matchups against really high-powered leaders like Ra's al Ghul, for example, or Bane, or you know, lots of other leaders really in this game, he might feel like he's coming up a little bit short. In fact, he would probably definitely lose to them, but you know, they're tough leaders and you don't always find them. So yeah, reinforced gloves is a given, should hope so, you know, for that 2 stun. Sturdy is kind of you know, meh, really. I don't really, it's useful to have, but I've never found it to be game changing. It basically allows him to maintain his effort limit even if he's taking damage. So yeah, I mean, if he's taking that much damage, it's good to possibly get that effort in, but you know, meh. I mean, Vigilante's work is really useful. People, let's have a look at that one. During its activation, this model may make an effort to perform an extra manipulate action. There you go. That's really useful early game. It'll give him a chance to use sewer markers and still punch or throw, you know, his batlings at people. It's, you know, also putting down extra, you know, suspect markers, etc., etc. It's very useful. It helps him to score a lot of the cards. So that's one reason why people are very excited for this version of Batman, and I can very much appreciate why. Bat Beacon, which is, I said up there, I haven't covered that yet. It's a whole bunch of text. It's quite fun. Basically, yeah, target a suspect within 6 inches. You put this explosive template centered over it and roll 2 dice. All affected models with a willpower value less than the result suffer scared and push 2. So you push them 2 inches away. It's basically him summoning his bats like he did in the comic book. Then yes, scared and push 2. If this model, so if he's, and also if Batman is under a template, he can be placed 4 inches away from, you know, his current position. So it's kind of like a mini bat claw for him, but very mini. And one thing on that subject, you'll notice that this model does not have the bat claw, and he also does not have bat armor either. Though these two things are kind of like the safety net that I find Batman kind of, you know, needs to be able to jet around and be the confident model in the Batman crew. You're missing that on this guy because yeah, he's just not that tough, if you ask me. This is a Batman who doesn't have that safety net, and you will be punished for acting like he does, very much so, because he's, you know, with willpower 7, he's very, you know, he's very exposed to things like taunt and other traits that other enemy models have. So yeah, he'll be falling for a lot of the tricks like Poison Ivy's Hypnotize, for example, and all sorts of other things, which he, you know, older versions of Bruce Wayne might not, and that's characterful, and I do, you know, and that's fine, you know, it's good. But you know, so you've got to be smarter how you play with this Batman, is what I'm saying. I don't think this is a beginner's Batman by any means. He's very cool though, and yeah, I mean, so I don't think he's like the second coming of Jesus Christ or anything, which some people seem to think he is. He's certainly a useful model, but he's not the be-all and end-all. And there is one other thing, sorry, which I wanted to bring up. Where is it? It's Shadow's Agents. Sorry, just found it there. This is a good rule, which people are liking as well. If this model is the boss, before the start of the game, choose another friendly model to be the boss instead, which overcomes a lot of the problems people are finding with Batman crews as they stand, where Batman is the leader and then he jets off and doesn't get to inspire any of the henchmen, the police models, short of having radios and things. This enables you to take a Batman and then take, say, Commissioner Gordon, make Commissioner Gordon the boss, and Gordon stays with your cops and supports them with his various traits and inspiration, while Batman can get on with being Batman. And that is really a useful, really useful rule. And yeah, I do like this version of Bruce Wayne, don't get me wrong. I just maybe don't think he's the best Batman or anything like that. I don't think he clearly stands head and shoulders over some of the other more mobile ones. If you take this Batman, you're losing a lot of verticality in your crew because he doesn't have Batclaw. And he doesn't have like acrobatic or anything else that helps him climb up walls or anything like that. So he will be missing out on some of that. He might be grounded to the street level, barring what he can climb up. With that fairly impressive movement of 12, he's going to be, you won't be able to just like, I just need to get to the top of that Ferris wheel over there. I'll just use the Batclaw this turn. There you go. There's an easy snitch, for example. He doesn't have that, so you have to be smarter, have to plan a bit more. And yeah, the more experienced you are in the game, the more use you will get out of this guy. So I can see why people are excited. Just maybe not. I don't maybe think he's the best head and shoulders Batman above all the others. But he's got some cool tricks, and he can really good use of him will put you'll probably get more out of him than some of the other versions, definitely, in the right situations. And that's what it is. It's all about having the right situations, of course. And that's down to your playstyle. Okay, I think I've spoken enough about this guy, so let's move on. Continuing on the year one theme here, let's go with Commissioner Gordon next. He's part of the 2-model blister pack for him and Detective Flass, which are interesting additions for reasons I'll cover in a second. This guy though, let's look at his build quality. Well, there's no gluing whatsoever required on this guy. It's all one piece, so just a little bit of cleanup with a very sharp knife. Remember that, guys and gals. This material they're using, don't file it. Don't use a relatively blunt knife to to have it a bit more sturdy. Use the sharpest of sharp knives that you can possibly lay your hands on. Mark craft knives, that is, and modeling knives, sorry, and just trim off and be careful about it, and the models will be fine. They're quite durable, and the material will hold up, no problem. And yeah, as you can see, he came out pretty well. If I just pick him up, show you what I mean. Here we go. So getting closer, good, amazingly good detail. He's got his, with his holstered gun, the glasses, tricky things to sculpt, I gather. So it's all there, and it's a great version, very good likeness to this guy's, comic book look. Okay, I very much like it. No filling, of course, since there's no assembly required. Okay, let's move on and have a look at his stat card. I'll just have to go and reach it. Okay, well then, let's check out Lieutenant Gordon's stats. I keep calling him Detective, but he's Lieutenant. And he's a henchman for the Batman crew, interestingly, so not a sidekick, not a free agent or a leader, a henchman. 46 reps, so he's coming in at around about Detective Bullock kind of range of reputation. So he's kind of like the same reputation as one of the Soldiers of Fortune type of henchman, so should be quite capable. His stats don't really match up to that though, in terms of that. He's got a workable defense of 4 though, that's really good. Willpower endurance of 6 is kind of standard for henchmen these days, especially for this points range. But yeah, his movement's quite slow, sort of average strength, but yeah, and his weaponry is not much to write home about either. He's got the fairly standard GCPD issue gun, shall we say, same as Detective Bullock. It's useful, can certainly tie into what's the objective card where they use the fake bullets. That's a handy one to pop in there. And his martial prowess to represent his ability to take on Green Berets in the comic is there as well, with his overwhelming stat meaning. I think that means that people have to get -1 on their defense rolls against him or something, I think that is. So he's not, but that said, he's not going to be taking out even sort of like anyone more than a really fairly rubbishy henchman in one round of combat, certainly. not with that stat line, not without help. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. He's at the end of the day, he's a GCPD detective. He's not a trained mercenary or an assassin or anything like that. You're really going to be taking this guy for his traits, and let's have a look and see what they do. So he's got the rest, really useful. You know, everyone likes that when you're a policeman. That's how you get things done in the Batman crew. Bulletproof vest makes him a little bit more survivable against the gun toters out there. We'll go on. We'll look at coordination a bit. Cop is the key word. You know, doesn't really do much except for what we'll see in a minute. Detective, really useful trait. Manipulating and putting down suspects within 3 inches is a lot better than it might sound. It gives you that bubble, lets you do things at the beginning of your activation, then move away, for example, stuff like that. Incorruptible means he can only be taken if in a Batman crew, so none of this corrupt comp nonsense we might find out about later on. So that's cool. And observation is a little combat trait for him. Let's see. It gives him bonus defense while he's before he activates, and bonuses to attack to models which have already activated. It's kind of useful. It's still not going to groundbreak. It'll be, you know, obviously. On this model it's not so useful. On better combat models, dedicated combat models, it's much better, but you know, it's a little bit of something that makes him stand out from the rest. And yeah, he'll benefit from it, but sometimes you've got to activate a model first because of things you need to do to score cards, and that may well happen with Lieutenant Gordon. I wouldn't pass up on that just so I could get the observation bonus out later on, you know. Coordination's an interesting one. This is probably the most standout trait. I think, as far as I'm aware, this is the only model that has it. It's his special action, and it works like order. Except it's better. Target a friendly model within 8 inches of this model that shares a keyword with this model. So that'd be cop, basically. So other cops, which there's going to be plenty of if you're canny with your crew selection. And immediately perform an action with that model. That is potentially super duper. Order only lets you put down a suspect marker, and that's what Bullock's got on a few other models. Coordination, you could use this to do all sorts of things. I mean, moving is an obvious one, so you can get an out of turn movement with another model. That's bloody good. You could also you could order them to shoot if they've got any of those police with high powered weaponry and stuff. It's just, there's so many little potential bonuses you can work with this. That makes this Lieutenant Gordon into he's a good force multiplier, shall we say, in that respect. Solid choice, and for 46 rep you need something like that in there. So yeah, I can see people taking this guy a lot, potentially. I mean, he's kind of taking up the space of 2 other cops, so you know, he might be a swap out for Harvey Bullock if you wanted to, but you know, you could work things with both of them. It really depends upon how expensive you're taking your Batman, and if you're taking other free agents or sidekicks or whatever, how many points you have to spend. But yeah, if you're taking one of those police heavy lists, this Lieutenant Gordon model is really going to come into his own, because he'll really buff up all your other models in that crew. So yeah, and he plays well into a lot of the suspect play that goes on in the Batman crew objective deck. So yeah, I can see this guy being a great take to get on there, and a good characterful model into boot. Okay, let's move on and have a look and see his partner, Detective Flass. And here he is, the second model in the Year 1 Cop booster pack, shall we say, blister pack. Detective Flass. This is a highly corrupt cop who took Gordon under his wing when he first got to Gotham, and was summarily disappointed by Gordon's refusal to bend under the corruption of the GCPD, which was rampant back then. Another good model. Another one I was worried was a little bit flat, but came to be quite nice, and you see it in the flesh or the resin. Yeah, I do like the pose is a lot better when you actually get the model. It's funny how many times that happens. Miniature photography is obviously a lost art. I still think that way when Games Workshop does it, and if they can't get it right, then, what chance does anyone have really when it comes to miniatures? Not much filling to do. As you can see, I put some green stuff on the arm, but now I kind of realise it's his university blazer, so there was supposed to be a little bit of a seam, but filling that in a little bit, I can make that up with painting, and frankly, I think there was an nonetheless a little bit of a gap that I needed to get rid of anyway, even with the thought that it's a university blazer anyway. But yeah, or high school blazer, should I say. Not sure this guy went to university. Yeah, he's cool, good model. Fits, there's the arrogance in the pose and in the expression on his face, which I really like. I once again put some green stuff on the base, he's standing on earth, so I thought having him on cobblestones was a bit weird, but yeah, so I just, easy enough. This is not what I would call a difficult sculpting job by any means, just filling in a base with a bit of green stuff and just like thumping it a bit with the sculpting tool to make it bumpy. Yeah, that's not what I'd say, but yeah, hang on, there you go, he's Gotham High black blazer there, so that's nicely raised on the model, so no problems painting that. No need for any worries about having to freehand anything or trace a line or whatever. This is nicely raised on this model. You can see that there, and yeah, he's a solid figure. Do like him. Right, so I've got his stat card with me this time, so no need to cut. Hurrah! I'm just going to stand up for this bit. Oh. Okay, so here you go. Much like Gordon, he comes in the $41,200 rep range. He's a henchman there. So yeah, another stand-in for Detective Bullock or Gordon, as we just saw. So, or you can take them all at the same time for around about 130 points combined. That would be a pretty solid set of police officers, but you'd have to be really worried about how big your crew's going, if that's going to impact your crew size at the end of the day. Interestingly, yes, Batman, but the affiliation also for organised crime just off the bat. So yeah, that's an interest. That's a really good thing, because this gives his model a little bit more use and fits in with his character perfectly. And therefore, you've got to bear in mind all these following traits, etc., will be in the context of what you can do with him amongst cops, and also what you can do with him amongst robbers or criminals. More to the point. His stat line for his points really doesn't sort of match up to what you'd expect, because he's kind of weak, and that goes for his weapons too. 6/6 willpower endurance is kind of standard these days at this points range, but it's really the rest. The 3 and 3 attack defense and the 8 movement is at the low end of what you'd expect for this points range, so you're going to have to look at what else he can provide. And his weaponry doesn't do it either. Standard GCPD issue gun and the baseball bat, handy and heavy, but only the one stun damage. He's not going to be worrying an awful lot of models very soon, even at the similar henchman level, even at half his points cost even, so he's not there to be a bruiser, not a brawler. It's his stats is where the interest lies. So again, he's got a bulletproof vest and detective, much like Gordon and a lot of other cops, but these are really, these are standard good things which drive up the points cost. And yeah, I'd heartily recommend looking into them and appreciating how good those rules are. And now, if you think about the detective and arrest, etc., in amongst an organised crime crew, then you're bringing a lot of things to the board which they didn't have before. The ability to knock out models and then just pick them up off the board. It's not really something you see very often outside of a police crew. And detective is just ties into so many objective cards across the other deck as well. You see cop there, that's his keyword. Evidence tampering is a great trait which Harvey Bullock's got amongst the other cops and a handful of other models as well. It's the one whereby when you reveal an enemy suspect, you get to replace it with one of your own as well. So it's that two-way swing for suspect markers can be incredibly good in the right circumstances. I've had it played against me and it's really annoying, and you come to rue that trait. It's one of the reasons why in my game reports Harvey Bullock tends to die early, because I kind of appreciate it, maybe too much, but yeah, evidence tampering, great. And again, you put that in organised crime, there's good potential there for how it synergizes with other cards in your deck as well, and just to annoy and even to disrupt your opponent as well. A lot of the generic cards work upon having more suspects out than your opponent, and this two-way swing where you're not only taking one of theirs off but putting one of yours on can really A, help you score them, or B, ruin your opponent's attempts to do so as well. So yeah, good stuff. Finally, the corrupt rule. That's an interesting trait right there. Here we go. If this model is included in your crew, you can recruit up to 3 henchmen with the cop trait. Well, in a Batman crew, that rule has nothing really, but in the organised crime crew, meaning if you take this model, you can take 3 more policemen or cops. That opens up a whole bunch more henchmen for the organised crime crew and a whole bunch more potential synergies, a lot more arrests. If you take Harvey Bullock in organised crime, there's more evidence tampering, all sorts of things, just more detectives, whatever, you know. Or, you know, you can actually go for something, you know, a SWAT officer like Larida or something to get that handy shooting ability. You know, you can cover a lot of gaps. Or if you just, you know, it just helps you with your collection. If you've already got a policeman or cops in your collection, and you want to branch into organised crime, this blister pack with Detective Flass lets you use a lot of your older models for your new crew if you want to branch into organised crime. So yeah, this guy is a great take. I think he's a good model. I look forward to having him painted up. He's an easy paint job as well, kind of just easy block colours there, nothing too fancy. Yeah, looking forward to getting him done and out on the board. Okay, having finished year 1, we're on to the more oddball section of the spectrum here. And when I say spectrum, that is not that is a dual meaning, because this is Crazy Quilt, who is a kaleidoscope of colours on his model. But let's just have a look at the build quality of him first. This guy is the one that's most awkward to put together of all of the set. There's I forgot to mention Flass was just 2 parts, I think, and a base. No problem there. And this guy, both his arms were separate, one of his legs and his head were all separate there. Not to mention his funky sculpted base with all its paint pots, etc. So a bit more assembly to do, and of course that meant a bit more work with the cleaning up of the model and things, but again, sharp knife, there was no real issue. Let's just have a quick look at him close up. As you can see, there's no evidence of any green stuff at all, so despite the fact there were multiple parts, they really did a good job on fitting him together. Okay, so yeah, no problems whatsoever, no gaps that required filling. Right, so yeah, he's a good figure. You see his expression there, and you can see all the lovely detail is well realised and in the resin. Oh, sorry, like there. Okay, and yeah, he's an interesting guy. I'm not looking forward to painting him, that's for sure. And you'll see when we show his stat card, or if you've ever seen him before in the comics or whatever, this guy just is a patchwork quilt of all sorts of different colours. And I'm going to hate myself for picking this guy up halfway through painting him, but that's what we do, isn't it? Let's have a look at his stats and his card. I'll just stand up again so I can get a better angle. Right, this guy is going to be, funny enough, despite his massive colour scheme, he's actually quite easy to go through. Again, 44 rep model as a henchman. He'll work for anyone except Batman, so he's just one of those generic nasty boys who works for any crew. His stat line is awful, so apart from his willpower endurance, which is alright at 6 each, his stat line is naff, really. He's not going to be doing anything with these stats. Attack 2, defense 3, only strength of 6+. He's really not there to do the heavy lifting at all. But his weapons are alright. He can, his lethal blast with his energy helmet, I'm guessing is what it is. It's short range though. Is going to, cause problems. But it does double blood. With a handful of dice, and it's assault, so he won't lose that strength dice from moving and firing, but again, you've got to expose him to risk in order to use it. So if you got a canny opponent who knows what he can do, he'll be out of the picture long before he gets within range to do anything, or he'll get one shot off and then he'll be taken out quite quickly, right before he gets another chance to use it. Blinding Blast is quite useful. It's the flamer sort of template, the teardrop template. Again, beam will be ignoring cover, but it just enervating 2 with the possible chance of blind if you roll a 6 on that strength die. It's not gonna like set the world on fire with anything. Again, it's a kind of useful thing. If your opponent's clustered up and you're about to engage him in heavy close combat with the rest of your crew, then yeah, that the enervating 2 across the board on a whole bunch of his models will pay dividends probably. But it's a fringe case, but I don't think they added too much onto his cost in order to use it, really. But yeah, not many traits. Criminal, which ties into a few of the organised crime leaders now. It's kind of handy, maybe. But Quilt's helmet and lantern. Lantern's the one that lets you generate a 2-inch light radius. Potentially useful if you have it in your crew, but again, you have to expose this guy quite heavily to use it, and he's not built for that kind of thing. But yeah, I'll just go into Quilt's helmet. Big old trait there, basically. He can see anyone within 8 inches. Hurrah. But basically, what's it called? Ignoring any other rule and ignores the blind effect. Okay, so that's marginal. It's just a little flavour really, more than anything else. In addition, this model may spend its special action to target any model within 6 inches. That model suffers the hypnotise effect. So yeah, and you can only take one piece of equipment just to keep him balanced and stop you from building up too many weird combos with him. But yeah, the hypnotise effect is probably what you're taking this model for. And it's not automatic. If you give someone the hypnotise effect, they then have to test, basically. So although you can apply the effect automatically, they still get to test their willpower to see if they succumb to its effects. To succumb to its negative effects, shall we say. Yeah, so if they fail their willpower test, you can then take 2 actions with that model, and I've used that with Poisoned Ivy in a lot of my game, several of my games. I think if you look up my games with Poison Ivy, she's hypnotised at least one person, and you can cause some real mayhem with it. The best, it's really useful, and that's basically what you're paying the 44 rep for, really. He's not going to be doing an awful lot else, except if he gets a lucky lethal blast off, maybe. But yeah, again, you've got to, this is a short range model. You've got to get close to use him. I wouldn't build a strategy around him, but if you've got plenty of models which can cause damage, lots of glass cannons, some of them are going to get through. And if you include him in that equation, then you can really do good stuff. You can achieve big things, but don't expect him to last long once the enemy takes notice. But that's the same with a lot of these C, D, Z listers that Night models have been releasing, which are just he's more flavour than he is just genuine brilliant gaming ability. I'm quite fine with that. That makes his web store exclusive to Night models, so you won't be picking them up at retail, I don't think. That does mean, and that's fine for models like this where they're really not intrinsic to the workings of the game. If you like the character, or you think he's funny, or you're a collector like me who likes to have the weirdos in his display cabinet, then yeah, go for it, but don't feel that you've missed out on him if you don't get him. Okay? And finally, I really wanted to cover the marker sets that Night Models has done. Yes, these are a set of counters which are themed towards each of the main 2 crews in the game, which is, I think that's what they consider them to be, the main 2 anyway, the Batman crew and the Joker crews respectively. What these do is they replace the suspect markers for each of the crews with resin copies. So instead of using the cardboard counters that come in the starter set, you can just get these to be a little bit more themed. I'm going to say straight off the bat, neither of these sets are essential for you to play the game at all. These are like accessory packs which are very optional, the kind of thing that suckers like me buy because I always do and I always have to. But yeah, just to let you see, this is the Batman crew. I'll focus on them first. This is their suspect markers, so you can see some footprints, a batarang, and what's that? What is that? Sorry. I don't know, it looks like a packet, a little packet or something just there. I'm being dumb. I'm probably, if I look at it closer, I'll probably pick it up, no problem at all. But yes, you also get something here. I think this is the snitch marker with Harvey Bullock's hat on. You get the wait for backup one, and this is the what is it? It's the card. This relates to the new card, I think, that came with the Batman Year One. It's going to be in the Batman deck. They added 3 more cards, objective cards, to each of the crews, Batman and Joker, when they just released the new edition a minute ago. The new starter set a minute ago. So those cards will be in there, and this is the counter that marks in. You get 3 snitches, 3 of these, and you get one wait for backup, just to match the number of copies of them that there are in the objective deck. And yeah, they're funky. This saves me using my cardboard stand, my wooden MDF standees that I've been using. And yeah, you get the full 8 suspect markers as well. It's all right. It's like it's totally optional. optional. Wouldn't say you need to get them if you're not, but for people like me who just want to collect things and have things, they've got something else to paint. Hooray. I can't wait. Moving on to the Joker set, it's exactly the same principle. So the suspect markers are actually now replaced with Joker's trademark Joker playing card, which I'm really looking forward to painting 8 copies of that. At least it's all it's all raised detail on here, so it'll be a lot easier for me to do than it would be if I had to freehand it. Blimey, I wouldn't be bothering to freehand it, let's be honest, but yeah, I've got no excuse now. It's raised detail, so yeah, got to do them. You may not see them before the next time I play with either of these crews. I hasten to add, this is going to be something on my low priority list, but want to get done, let's say. This is my spare time in between other things list of hobby projects to paint these up. But yeah, the Stinky Fish, which we all know and love, bring that to the fore, sorry. There we go. Yeah, get 3 of those, so I've got more than 1 copy of them now. Excellent. The Stinky Fish for the Joker crew, everyone loves that. What else? You got the Exploding Teeth. There they are. 3 of those in the set. Can't wait. Those are going to be fun to paint up. The Stinky Fish and these. Yeah. You also get 3 of the Joker gas canister markers as well, which are actually resources. I haven't actually used them in my games yet. I'm too busy scoring cards to actually use them, but I'm probably missing out on things. But yeah, for people who want to use them, and I know people do, because they're better players than I am, you got 3 of these as well, and they look cool, really fun. Like I said though, you won't be penalised for not using them. All of these markers are in the starter sets as like cardboard counters, so you're fine. I wait with interest to see if they release these equivalent sets for other crews. I can see it going both ways, and I honestly don't know which is better. I guess they'll base that upon whether people ordered these sets or not as well. If demand is great for these sets, then they may be tempted to release them for others. If not, then I think they'll take that as a hint that maybe it's just unnecessary. That's either way is fine by me. Obviously I'll buy them if they come out. I'm a sucker, like I said, accessory packs for miniatures games I'm just a sucker for. But your mileage will very likely vary on that as to whether or not they're essential for you or completely pointless. And either way, it's fine. It's personal preference, hobby at the end of the day. But I'd be interested to see what they bring out for all the other crews. It'd be nice to see little themed like markers for each of them. That's basically where we are with things at the moment in the state of the Knight models. I'm going to do another quick critique after this one to cover things like the card release, when I can talk about that. It's a big release, that one, so I wanted to do a separate video for it. But this is my quick critique of the miniatures releases for April 2021. I hope you enjoyed it or got something out of it. And yes, I will follow up with the card review in just a moment.